What up? I'm back for another drawing video. Yay! Woo! So it's April, which means we're right in the middle of springtime finally. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm very affected by the weather. I definitely have a seasonal affective disorder, or seasonal depression, or something like that. So it is a blessing whenever spring rolls around and things start to warm up again. So, since my creative juices are thawing out, and there is not a worse way I could have said that, I want to brush up on my character design skills. I've kind of been slacking on them a lot since I was going through kind of a tough time last year, but now we are back, and today I want to draw some snakes. Why? Because I love snakes. I own a snake, and here she is. Her name is currently Monty, which is not a reference to Monty Python. A lot of people think it is, but it's not. It's a reference to the movie, A Series of Unfortunate Events, but I'm considering changing it to Selene, the Greek goddess of the moon, since, ball pythons are, like, nocturnal and all that. Also, this is the obligatory warning if you have a fear of snakes or, like, anything serpent-like, because they're going to be popping up for the rest of the video. Anyway, I'm not just here to draw snakes, but I'm drawing snakes if they were representing the 4 seasons, in a way. I don't really mean they're like gods of the 4 seasons, but they're more like embodiments of the season itself, if that makes sense. Kind of like Pokemon. They're kind of like Pokemon. I figure using the 4 seasons could give me a lot of good shape diversity and good color diversity in the designs by using the 4 seasons to kind of guide me. So despite the fact that my subjects here are all just noodles at the end of the day, I had to figure out how I was going to make them look different, which I realized came down to figuring out their body type and adding physically distinct features. Let's see how my first sketch was. So here we got the concept sketch. I think this is pretty good in terms of getting back into the groove of character design. One thing I realized quickly is that I didn't just want to draw a snake with a color palette reflecting each season. So I added some whimsical forest textures, like giving the summer snake a bunch of moss on its back, or having the autumn snake be covered in spiky red leaf scale things. But I can't just draw these guys and be done with them. Let's draw them all together in one big composition. I already got the sketch here, so I just jumped right into line art right away. It's also probably very obvious which snake is based on a specific species, and I'll explain why. The spring-inspired snake is mostly based on garter snakes. I decided a garter snake-like body is the kind that embodies spring the most, since garters and ribbon snakes have these huge, adorable eyes, which makes me think of baby animals and new beginnings, thus making me think of spring. I added those little plant buds, mostly just for added texture. Plus, plants coming back in the spring and all that. Like I said, this design was mostly based on garter snakes, which if you've seen a garter snake in the wild, you're probably gonna think the color scheme is completely off. Which you're kind of right, because garter snakes can come in wildly different colors depending on where they're found in North America. The greenish hue and the checker pattern, though, was kind of inspired by these 2 garters featured in this snake discovery video, though. I just think they look neat. Also, just for the record, I did not intend for this snake to look like the snake from Kung Fu Panda. I just didn't realize it until I was pretty much already done with the drawing, and I didn't want to change it. I don't really mind people comparing my designs to existing characters, but I know if I don't point this out, then I'm gonna get comments about it. So I'm just letting you know that I know. And it just shows that I probably just have some room to grow in my design skills. When it comes to the background, it was pretty straightforward. I've always lived somewhere that has trees which produce those pink blossoms on them, which aren't always cherry blossoms, hence why I'm not calling them that. So I decided to put a pink blossoming tree above the snake, since that's always been my symbol of spring, And they are very pretty after all. I mean, they're not featured in a bunch of animes for no reason. The rest of the background was pretty easy too. I mean, it's just an upward view featuring some sky and some grass, not very hard. Overall, I tried to keep the backgrounds for these characters minimal, but still thematic. The summer snake is based on large constrictor snakes, though mostly the anaconda and the Burmese python. These snakes really embody summer to me because 1, they're found in tropical climates where it's warm year-round, and 2, I wanted the summer snake to give off that vibe of being a big, chubby, relaxed kind of guy. Kind of like a surfer dude. I just think those big fat snakes look happy as hell. Especially the Burmese pythons, since they're literally destroying the Florida ecosystem by being too good at eating everything. So I wanted the summer snake to reflect that vibe of fun in the sun and not having a care in the world. Aside from that, I just enjoy this design because of the fluff on its back. I called it moss before, but I don't really care what it is because it just looks like fur at the end of the day, and that's cute. I also like the tongue sticking out, looking kind of like when a farmer has a piece of wheat sticking out of his mouth. Does anyone know why people do that? I never really know why, so as a kid I'd just pick up grass and stick it in my mouth to pretend to be a farmer like that. Back to the summer snake though. Originally, I thought I'd add some kind of Burmese python adjacent pattern to the grass on its back, but when I tried to do something similar, I just didn't really like it. I thought it made the design look cluttered and distracting, so I kept it flat green, but I added some spots meant to represent color variation. In hindsight, I wonder if I should have added, more distinct foliage to the mane of moss, like flowers or specific leaf shapes. You can let me know down below. For this drawing, though, I was mostly excited by the background since I thought it'd look really beautiful and summery if the snake was relaxing next to this pretty lakeside. So I tried my best to make this environment look warm but still relaxing. And it does look relaxing, but I'm not sure if it looks warmer than 20 degrees Celsius. Oh well. I think the sparkles on the water help make the sun appear brighter and more summer feeling though. But I think it really came together once I added the shading to the snake. Now it looks like he's keeping his head in the shade but still getting warmth by keeping his body in the sun. Now that it's done, I just want to go to a lake or river like this, and I'm in luck because Canada is damn full of places like this. So, catch me doing that this summer. Now, the autumn snake resembling a rattlesnake might seem weird. And you're right, this one might be my weakest in terms of concept. I think I just wanted autumn to look edgy since it's the season where all the plants die and it's also Halloween time. I tried to maybe make it seem like the top scales were shaped like fallen leaves, but I'm not sure it comes across, at least in this sketch. I at least tried to make the colors autumn-themed, as you'll end up seeing later. I think I had a more elaborate idea for this guy than I ended up with, especially when you look at the concept sketch. I originally wanted the leaves on their back to protrude outward a little bit, much like how a rattlesnake's scales are protruding outwards and look kind of bumpy to touch, especially compared to a ball python whose scales are flat, and when you touch them, they feel smooth. These are called keeled scales, by the way. But then I started drawing the snake here, and I kinda just flattened those leaf scale things, since it made more sense given the perspective. At least they still look a bit three-dimensional. Also, I hope you like the addition of a pumpkin-shaped rattler tail. I thought that was a really cute idea. Overall, I think I just made the design look friendlier than the sketch, which wasn't what I was going for, but it turned out really nice. Besides, it's not like there needs to be more depictions of snakes as something scary or frightening. The background was kind of a challenge, though. I blame it on the angle I drew the snake at, which makes the horizon line really far up the piece. I always feel like drawing a downwards angle like this is hard because it's just the ground. How do I make the ground look interesting? Luckily, mushrooms come in clutch. They also come in clutches. I also added this hollow log, since snakes are always hiding in little caves and such. Plus it adds more visual interest. I think this one really came together with the color correcting I did, so I really like how this one turned out in the end. but it's mostly because I like autumn color palettes. Now, the winter snake is kind of a mishmash here because I took inspiration from cobras, obviously, and also venomous elapids like the taipan in Australia and the black mamba in Africa. Obviously, the winter snake is a venomous one. Winter is the season where everything dies after all, at least if you don't live near the equator. Though to be fair, when it's winter in Canada here, it's summer in Australia when snakes like the taipan are most active. So on a really, really big technicality, these types of snakes are more active during winter in the northern hemisphere. So that's my justification for this kind of design. Also, I added that cobra hood since I thought it would make the snake look like the Grim Reaper, a la the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come from the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is a hyper-specific reference, but that's what makes me think of winter, so... The design is simplistic, but it looks very eerie to me, which is what I was aiming for. I just had to decide what the design on the cobra hood would be. I didn't want it to be intricate, but in hindsight I should have made it a winter-adjacent symbol like a snowflake, or maybe like a creepy-looking snowflake. Instead, I just made the hood design look like eyes, so I guess I had Arbok on the mind. It's still a cool design to me, but it's not really fitting for the theme. I think most of my inspiration to draw this image was the backdrop, and the general spookiness of this image. I know why some people prefer their winter-inspired characters to take more design elements from the fun parts of the season, like the festivities and the change in weather, which I obviously enjoy too. It's just that, for me, when it comes to winter, the negatives outweigh the positives for me. It's always dark, it's harder to traverse the ground because of the ice and snow, and where I live in Canada, it can get to like -°C in January, sometimes colder. Some winters are better than others, but mostly I try to spend my winters curled up in a heated blanket with my dog. So I decided I wanted to make this background be reflective to the dread of the cold. Like, the snake itself is calm, despite it being a strange environment for a reptile, because the snake knows the winter is inevitable, and they're comfortable with that. So they just stare forward as they get slowly covered by the looming darkness that's seemingly coming right towards the viewer. The rest of the environment looks empty, but you just can't tell if it's because it's too dark to see anything or because it really is empty and you're alone. I think I succeeded in getting across that vibe. Then, after some color correcting, I had to decide what I was gonna do with the asymmetrical borders that I put in this piece. I think I was gonna put symbols like a flower for spring, maybe a sun for summer. I don't know, but I didn't go with it because I thought it looked silly for something like this. So instead I just got a bit lazy and put a flat color with some texture over it. Could I have done something more visually interesting? Maybe. But I think for a last-minute adjustment, it turned out pretty neat. Though I did save another version with the uncorrected colors and made the squares black, thus blending into the border more seamlessly, which also looks pretty cool. So yeah, here's both of the finished drawings. For something that was meant to be a quick exercise, I wasn't sure how this was going to come out, but I ended up liking it a fair bit. And despite it being called a quick exercise, I took a few days to do this, so I need to be more realistic about my time management. I might do this again in the future, though I'm not sure I'll make a finished poster like this, since this is really extra for a character design challenge. But yeah, if you have any ideas, feel free to say them down below. Anyway, subscribe or don't. I'm not just here to draw snakes, but I'm drawing snakes if they... words.